So printing, we're going to talk about some print settings and how to print, beginning with looking at the big print button. We're going to select the number of copies that we can print. We're going to change the default printer, which we have to get outside of Excel actually to do that. We can change print settings directly, and I'll show you what I mean by that. We have a print preview that allows us to adjust the margins if we want to, and there's also a zoom setting. So I have some data, which is the industries that are traded on the NASDAQ stock exchange and some performance ratios for those industries for some period of time. I don't know what year it is, but that really doesn't matter because we're going to use this to look at the print settings. And to get to the print settings, we press CTRL+P, and by default, the big print button is selected. So if I press enter, all the default settings will be in play, and this job will get sent to the printer, and it'll get printed, including the number of copies, which I can change with this spin button. Or I can enter a number in there directly. This setting, by the way, will be saved. So if I go back to the workbook and then CTRL+P, I still have 100 copies selected. So you kind of want to be aware of that. The default printer is my brother printer, my 2170W series. Not a very high-end printer, but it does the job. I've actually had it installed twice. When you do that, you'll see a copy of the printer, and I can select one of these other choices. I can select fax. Of course, my printer isn't set up to fax this document, but once again, when I go back into the workbook and press CTRL+P, that's the selection that's still in play. To change the default printer, at least in Windows 7, you have to go to the Control panel, select View Devices and Printers, and right-click on something that's other than the current default printer, which has a big green check mark, and then choose Set as Default Printer. I'm not going to do that because I want to keep my brother printer as a default printer. I'm going to close that. Make my selection back to my default printer. You can change the print settings directly, print properties. This will pull up the dialog box that was installed when you installed your printer. And a lot of these settings are the same settings that you can change through Excel as well that we're going to cover in an upcoming movie. So you can change the paper size, the orientation, which by default is portrait, and you can see the number of copies has picked up the entry that I put into the field for the number of copies. So you can change these settings directly with this dialog box that your printer has, or you can drive these changes by changing the settings directly in Excel. So the print preview, this print job, has currently 6 pages, and I can page through and look at each one of the pages. So I can preview what this print job is going to look like on a page-by-page basis, and also obviously get an idea of how many pages that I'm going to print. So I can also adjust the margins by left-clicking this icon here to show the margins, and grab them and move them around. So you can get a live preview of what these adjustments are going to look like on each one of the pages, and if you impact the content in a way that causes Excel to increase the number of pages to display the content, which is what I just did, you'll be able to find that out too, because now we have 9 pages in this print job. The default is to display a whole page, but you can click this icon and zoom into the print job a little bit. And when there's content that's not displayed, you get a scroll bar so you can scroll down to see it. So those are the print settings. We looked at the big print button. We changed the number of copies that we're going to print. We changed the default printer. We found that we could change the print settings directly using our printer dialog box. We looked at the print preview, which displayed for us what each page was going to look like and the total number of pages in the print job. We can adjust the margins back in the print area. And we also looked at the zoom setting.